Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk. Radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's ubnradio.com.
It's time for the Bonnie Sher Show, a whirlwind of wit, wisdom, celebrity, and the boomer life. With a little bit of this and a lot of that and so much more you don't want to miss, here's Bonnie.
Well, hello, and thank you, new friends and old, for tuning in. Before I go any farther, I'd like to thank Wayne Cobbin for my super duper theme song. Thank you, Wayne. I am Bonnie Sher, your host through the world of celebrity, the boomer life, and type 1 diabetes. Today, we have as our guest, I'm thrilled to tell you, he's a comedy writer. God, he does everything. And most recently has authored a book called The Pink Marine. Ladies and gentlemen, with me today, I am going to be having Greg Cope White. And my type 1 diabetes co-host is MiniMed ambassador Jill Meyer, who's a member of the T1D community from right here in California. If you have a question or a comment, please call us at 323-843-3826. Or you can follow the hashtag BSherRadio. That's the # hashtag BSHER Radio on Twitter. So now, please, let's all settle in and meet my first guest, ladies and gentlemen, Greg Cope White.
Hi, thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you, Greg. Welcome. I have so much I want to get to with you, and I know we want to talk about your wonderful book, The Pink Marine, but unfortunately and fortunately, you have such a great story. Everything that I've read in preparing for today's interview just made me want to know more. So,
I'm an open book.
Okay. We're an open book.
I don't know if I can say some of these words on the air.
Currently, I see that you're a host on the Cooking Channel. You write for the Huffington Post. There's something which I read about, which is the Good Men Project.
I love contributing to that magazine.
Could you please tell us about that?
It's a great magazine that they provide great examples of literature for people that need an example on how to be a better man. So all sorts of subjects. They just really promote the idea of us being better.
That's phenomenal. How long have they been known? Or
I want to say since 2009. I could be wrong about that.
So it's fairly new, but well, if you're involved, I know I have to check this out
I
too.
love writing for them.
Also, I'm going to go back to something that I read that you spoke one time, and I just have to say this. You gave a quote when somebody asked you how you were able to do certain things, and your answer was, I just take one step, then another.
That's what they teach you in the Marine Corps. No matter how tired you are or how heavy your pack is or what other circumstances you have going on, if you need to take another step, you can do it.
It's a great philosophy. I don't know, I would have made a great Marine, but I could follow the philosophy.
You like boots?
I do.
It's boot camp.
Why didn't I ever think of that? Does it come in a 7.5B Stuart Weitzman boots?
No, it's GI boots, government issue boots.
Well, at least the government would be giving me something again. Okay, let's really now, I want to talk to you about, ladies and gentlemen, this is the book that we're talking about. This is The Pink Marine. And it's an incredible read. Everybody, not everybody, but we're going to start off with Norman Lear wrote the foreword for this book. Can you tell the audience a little bit about your time with Norman?
Yes, he was my first job in Hollywood. I moved out here from New York. As soon as I got out of the Marine Corps, I moved to New York. I was an actor. I studied acting, worked there, did some soaps, and then I moved to LA. And about 2 months here, a writer's strike hit. And I had a stack of scripts that I'd been auditioning with, but there were no jobs. And so I thought, I could write one of these. So I did write a script. And this isn't like overnight, but within a few months, a friend of a friend got it to Norman, and I ended up working for him here in this very building.
It's amazing.
And I got to write on 2 of his shows and work on several others and do pilots and other things. And then when it was time to look for someone to write the foreword to my book, I reached out to Norman because not only is he, of course, a legendary comedy writer, but he's also a great LGBT rights activist, and he is a World War II veteran. He flew countless missions over Europe.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And he's 93 now.
He's 93, and his book, Even This I Get to Experience, is out now, and so he was just finishing that as I was finishing mine, and he so generously wrote my foreword.
And a beautiful foreword it is. Also on the cover is a quote from Margaret Cho. Greg is as inspirational as he is hilarious. I love this book. Margaret, I love what you had to say. I don't really want to draw out too much out of the book itself. I think one of the great joys is just reading it and without any kind of expectation. I mean, clearly I knew when I picked it up, it says one boy's journey through boot camp to manhood. And having had a son who went through boot camp, and I remember the postcards that he sent to me and the one when he came through the gas thing.
Oh, wow, that's a rough
and
time.
I was thinking, oh my God, they made him do this, and I thought, you're too nice to have had to do that. But what, will you do this? Would you just tell our audience how you happen to become the Pink Marine so they don't think I'm crazy?
Right, that's probably a great way to kick it off. Just after my freshman year at college, my best friend called. By the way, he's still my best friend to this day here in LA. And he called me and he said that he was going to join the Marine Corps and go off to boot camp for the summer, and that he'd be finished in time for his semester, to start his semester as a sophomore. And that he was going to go to Paris Island, join the Marine Corps, go to boot camp, 13 weeks in the summer. We had a nice long conversation, and all I really gleaned from that entire thing was summer and camp. And I thought, I'll go with you. I love camp. And he really said, you can't go. You don't know anything about the military. You've never run a mile. You don't know what you're doing. We both forgot that I was gay and that being gay was a problem in the military. Certainly. So that's the kickoff for the whole book.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I really would love to see you go and purchase this book. I got mine.
You read it, which is, I have to give you props and a lot of appreciation for actually reading the book. I know we've had other conversations where you've talked about different parts about it, and I really appreciate that you read it.
Well, I love when I can love a book that I read for my show, and I truly admired it. So you were in for 6 years?
Yes.
Did you guys think that you were just going to summer camp and then that was a done deal? I mean,
there were so many hurdles along the way that it was really difficult to look at the whole picture, including a 6-year commitment. It was difficult. I had to take it in little chunks, sort of like taking one step at a time. And so first I had to sneak in. I didn't pass the physical. I lied about my sexuality. There were a lot of complications to get over. So I got over the first hurdle was just getting to boot camp. And then there were, of course, as outlined in the book, 100 hurdles while I was in boot camp just getting through that. And then to go on for 6 years, there's 1,000 other hurdles in that time. This book chronicles just the 13 weeks of boot camp because I went on also to officer candidate school. And so that's another section of stories.
Well, I'll be looking forward to reading.
There's some crazy stuff happened in there.
I'll bet it did. Being the daughter of a colonel and the mom of a sergeant, I hear, of course, they never tell me everything.
But you got those letters home from your son, and I'm sure you were thinking about some of the things that he was able to highlight on. And here you've got 100 pages at a time to draw those scenarios out.
And you just offer it. I sent you a note last night, and what really struck me is that this is just a delicious read and a delicious slice of life. I particularly love stories that present as slice of life. And so fortunately, it's an incredible topic, so beautifully written. I went from laughing my butt off with you, not at you, with you. And then when you turned my heart around and you wrote of your pain, I didn't feel sorry for you. I felt sorry with you. And that, I'd have goosebumps even thinking
Yeah, you are
back
quite
about
a
it.
great reader. I love that you went on that journey with me.
Well, thank you for allowing that.
Did you move around a lot as a kid? You said your father was a colonel?
Yes, we did. I lived in a different city every year, went to a different school every year from kindergarten through my first year of college.
Yeah, that's very impactful. Even though my family wasn't in the military, as you read in the book, I went to 13 different schools in 11 years. So I felt like a military kid without knowing what that was like.
No. My mother divorced my father when I was 3 or 4 years old. My mother was just a Jewish gypsy.
Oh.
So we were done with the military.
So your story's like mine. We both weren't in the military situation. We were just moving our parents from. Our mother was moving us
To find their next best place.
Yes. They just kind of forgot that they had kids along the way that might want to have a sense of permanence.
Every year I was a new kid in school.
It's just not cool.
And I had the old nose.
I did too.
And I had the braces. And
This is my old nose in here. That picture of me
Is
in
it-
the Marine Corps. Yeah. Who else would go on book tour and publish a book with their old nose? That is my old nose, people. Thank you, Mike Schwartz, here in Pasadena, California.
I can tell it in the hat. Okay, now, a couple other things I wanted to talk to you about. I know that you're a host on the cooking channel.
Love food, love to cook.
And basically, you are into sweets.
That's the show they have me now. Yes,
I
Unique
see.
Sweets.
And can you tell? For a diabetic, this, of course, is just delicious, delicious. So what you got?
I'm not diabetic, so I don't know exactly everything that you can and can't eat.
That's an old fallacy. Type 1 diabetics who are taking insulin, we can eat anything. You just have to take the insulin to cover it.
Okay, and I believe in everything in moderation,
Me too.
including moderation. but I cook all types of food. I love food. I love every type of cuisine. I learned in my grandmother's kitchen, and I love to tell stories through recipes. Look, a recipe is like a story, and a dish is like a story. I get to write that story, cook that story, and then eat that story.
So do you eat what you cook?
I do.
See, and I can't. Not that I don't
Are you
like it. I
nibbling
love.
all-
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'm tasting, but I'm
never
saving it.
allowed to serve sautéed mushrooms because they never make it to the table.
I do love a good mushroom. Where was I just the other night? I was in Miami, and I had some Kobe beef, and they had a side of mushrooms. I was more interested in the mushrooms
Then in the Kobe beef.
I was interested in the Kobe beef, believe me. But yes, it was great.
You also are quite a world traveler. Speaking of Kobe beef, have you traveled to Japan? Where have you traveled?
I have. I've been to Japan. I've been really fortunate to go. I loved Istanbul a lot. I got to spend a month there. Loved immersing myself in that. And I loved Cambodia. Have you been over there?
I have. Whoops, sorry, I have not.
I feel just it was incredible to get to see all that and walk through those temples. I've been to Vietnam, not as a Marine, but as a tourist. I loved Vietnam a lot. and then just wherever I can go. My other half lives in Montreal, so if you see on social media that I'm in Santa Monica sometimes and sometimes in Montreal, it's because we go back and forth.
I love Montreal. I do. And Quebec, I mean, definitely it's a lot easier. I mean, and I love all the French-ophile without the French making me a big difference.
You know, thank God that they speak some English in Montreal. Quebec City is a little bit more French, but the people in the hotels and everything are thrilled to speak English. I love Quebec City.
Yeah, I think that's going to be my late spring, early summer trip.
Let me know when you go.
Okay. Want to go?
I would love to. I think actually I'm going there the first week of June.
I'm not busy that way.
See?
I'm going to probably pull the entire thing away.
There's a great hotel there, the original hotel. It's the Chateau Frontenac. And I waited outside for like 3 hours because they have rooms in turrets. It's like a big old castle. And they said, yeah, if you give us a few hours, we can have a room. So I stayed in a turret. It's great.
I'd like to live in there. That would be wonderful. I also see that you have done a lot of writing for the Huffington Post.
Yes, I enjoy writing for them as well. You know, one of the good things about writing for the Huffington Post is that you can put material up in more than one place. So if I have something on my blog, it's okay to put it on Huffington Post too. I have a lot of things that are original for Huffington Post, but when they first reached out to me, I have my main blog, my blog, Eat, Greg, Eat, and then which isn't all about food, it's true life stories. But when they reached out to me to asked if I wanted to contribute, I said yes because I knew I was going to have this book soon, and it's a great marketing tool and a good platform to have. They actually, at the end of every Huffington Post story, you get to put a link to anything you have for sale on Amazon because they have an affiliate program and they're happy to participate in that. So it's a great chance to cross market, and you can cuss, you can do whatever you want on there.
You wouldn't do that, and heaven knows I wouldn't ever. You've had a way throughout your life of taking bites, literally and figuratively, out of life, out of just taking the bite. And I find that to be such a valuable aspect that you just jump into it. And so after all of the things that you have accomplished and been involved with up to this point, is there anything sort of lurking in the back of your mind that you've never tried or never ventured into that you might want to give a go to?
That is a good question. I haven't thought about that. You know, the old, but I really want to direct kind of answer. I think
what kind of tree would you want to be?
Right. If I could do something else separate from writing, it would, gosh, I guess everything involves writing. I would love to continue writing and publish a second book, more of these stories. But I think if I could do anything, I would love to own a small inn and cook and be the host there at a small inn. I think that would be great. A lot of fun.
I think so too.
Maybe very tiny with just like one guest room. and only make one thing a night.
I had a similar dream, but with me, I was going to take over a house and have, 2, 3, 4 guest rooms. And when they came in, there would be a piano and I would perform for my guests. And yeah, I would cook for them and then that would be it.
Right. That's a sweet deal.
It's, I like taking care of people. I think that's the foodie part in me. Also, making people feel better. And I think that it's something that I'm very proud of within myself. There are other aspects of me that I wish weren't as prevalent as they are. But
well, you've been to boot camp now that you've read this book, so.
I live with my father. I used to salute him from the high chair.
Oh,
yes,
that's adorable.
Yeah, well,
he deserved that salute.
He certainly did. Before I let you go, can you please share with the audience how they may follow you? Tell us. I know that Eat Greg Eat has some periods in the middle of it.
That is my, just like you released your Twitter handle at the beginning, that's my Twitter and my Instagram and my Facebook. All of those things are Eat Greg Eat. And then I love my website. If you haven't been, my website is thepinkmarine.com. And there's some really fun videos. Betty White did a fun video with me, and there's Armin Shimmerman. There's a lot of fun videos and other pages to explore. So it's and on thepinkmarine.com you can order the book through all your favorite retailers, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Download it on iTunes. Everything's right there.
I love America. It's so much easier. We happen to have a clip, do we not? And we're going to just flash this to y'all quickly. So have a look at this.
I'm here with Betty White, and she's got a message for you guys.
You know what? I can't wait for the Pink Marine to come out. And I hope he calls me.
Oh, I'm calling her.
That was Miss Betty White with our guest, Greg Cope White. You guys related?
Well, I guess everybody is. Technically, we're all related, technically, if we boil down to it. No, but not that I know of. I haven't done our genealogy, but I would love to be related to Betty White. She was a darling to do that. And when Betty White says, don't keep her waiting, you don't keep her waiting. So the book is out.
Well, we love her. And Greg, thank you so much for being with me today. I hope you'll come back. You are just a plethora of wonderful stories and your energy. I wish you all could be sitting here with me. It's just a wonderful, talk about a slice of my life.
I am
that
at your
has been
service.
better. I love when people say that to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
You are listening to the Bonnie Sher Show. Join the conversation. You can call 323-843-2826 or follow the hashtag. That's hashtag BShareRadio at Twitter. Coming up, a shout out from my soapbox, and that's my take on who got it right and who just messed up terribly. But we're going to go to break now with one of the songs that really touches me, and especially in this time in our lives, and we just don't know whatever is going to happen next. So just love and be kind, please. The song is written or performed by the wonderful Nancy Lamont, and go ahead and take it away.
I never thought that there could be a love like yours and mine. I never dreamed that I would see the day that I would find a love that feels so right. But here we are tonight, and now the only thing we really need is time. We live on borrowed time. No one can be sure when the loan will finally come due. But I'm loving all of mine. I know what time is for. I've borrowed it so I can spend it all right here with you. There was a time when I believed that life held guarantees. There was a time when I was sure my future was secure. But life had other plans. The future's in God's hands, and knowing that has let me live and love you more. We live on borrowed time. Yesterday is past. Tomorrow seems a million miles away. But I promise you that I'm gonna make love last by living every moment, every hour, every day. Now we may have a year, and we may have a lifetime. No one can be certain what the future will allow. But you and I are here, 'cause one thing that I know is that we have each other now. And now we live on borrowed time. Let's celebrate and sing as we walk bravely into the unknown. 'Cause we're gonna be just fine, whatever life may bring. We'll face it all together, and we'll never be alone. We may not have forever, but our time will be our own. See you tomorrow.
And we never, ever need to be alone. Well, welcome back to the Bonnie Sher Show. Joining me in this segment is Jill Meyer, who is a member of the T1D community from right here in Southern California. Welcome, Jill.
Thank you.
Jill, you're living with type 1 diabetes. Could you please share your story with us?
Sure. Well, I've been a diabetic since the age of 9 months. And this last February, on Valentine's Day, I celebrated my 54th diaversary.
Incredible. 9 months.
Yes. So, and in this time, diabetes has changed so much since I was first diagnosed. You have to understand, back then, we still used glass syringes, had to sharpen our own needles, and there was no blood testing machines or any of the things that we have today to do control. You know, it was very, very ominous back then, too. I could remember them telling my parents that I probably would only live to the age of 16 because that was the average lifespan of a diabetic back then. Mm-hmm. And then when I hit 21 and then 25 and I had a child, and then when I hit my 30s, they kept saying, well, you know, she's pushed it this far. Who knows? And here I am 55 years later, and I'm still going strong without any complications, really.
You're very lucky. You're very lucky. I also go back to boiling the syringes. This is actually coming on to year 49 for me. And the difference in the disease or the treatment and what we can do. And so to me, when I hear people talking about, well, why are you putting any more money into other devices and why aren't you just going for a cure? Well, as a person who has seen a lot of changes in these last 49 years and what it's been able to do, I'll tell you why we need it. You know, whether or not there is going to be a cure, and God knows I pray for it, but I don't necessarily believe it. And I very much believe in using what we have now to make it as good as we can without thinking about, well, they're going to cure it. I don't have to worry now. Well, yeah,
Right,
you do.
right.
You really need to pay close attention. You know, I think that I know with me that when I was first diagnosed and they sent me to Jocelyn, and the control was so rigid, and I lived in a constant state of hypoglycemia. And I didn't think that was so wonderful because I was
Right.
constantly then having to take on all the glucose. So all I did was yo-yo and bounce back and forth.
The Simogene, yes.
And so I feel that we're blessed by these. I mean, certainly the insulin pump,
Right.
you know, being able to have that basal insulin coming through all the time. And my sensor, I have become, that CGM has become like a part of me. And of course, now Medicare does, although they did pay, I'm on disability. So they were paying for it.
Right.
And one day I got a call from UCLA saying, oh, we made a mistake. You shouldn't have been getting them. And well, what do we do now?
Right, exactly. I think that's a big problem when it comes to what's covered, not covered, as far as Medicare, Medicaid, and with private insurance. I see so many diabetics right now that are having a hard time just managing to pay for insurance. And while Obamacare is not necessarily a bad thing, I think insurance companies have, again, gotten the jump on it and taken advantage because prices have gone through the roof. And it's not just for insurance, it's drugs. And when you go from $30 to $40 for a vial of insulin to now well over $300 a vial of insulin, something is really wrong.
I can remember the first bottle of insulin my mom bought was $2.83.
Right.
And now I saw a write-up on Humulin selling for $452 for a bottle. I'm on Humulin through my pump. I have a $47 copay. I get one bottle a month.
Mm-hmm.
And so I store it in the butter server. That's, it's
typical place for
right?
diabetic insulin.
Keep
Yes.
everybody away from it. Don't touch the butter. You can't eat my butter and you can't touch my insulin. But what happens if it's wet and there's some condensation or my sleeve catches and it goes crashing to the floor?
Right.
So that's a $452 boo-boo. Also, whatever happened to regular and MPH?
Well, over time, insulin has changed so much. It became recombinant DNA insulin.
Absolutely.
And one of the fears was in the early 70s, late 60s, that we would literally run out of insulin because of the fact that the numbers of diabetics were growing with the population. And so they had to come up with a way to produce insulin in mass that would, be sufficient enough for everybody else. And at that time, in Norway, they started making, with Novo Nordisk, they started making recombinant DNA insulin. And then eventually, Lilly started making insulin here, and that was in the late 70s, and it wasn't on market until around 1982, 83 here in the States.
Right.
But with that came all the extra patents, because insulin wasn't patented up to that point in time.
Right. Banning had never patented it.
Right. And they had given it away, so why should everybody have to? Because they held the original patent. But now that it's changed, everything's patented, and everything's become more of an expense.
And it is an incredible expense. I also want to bring up the point to our audience that Jill has a very interesting sideline, if you will. Miss Jill is an ambassador with MiniMed, which is something called the MiniMed Ambassador Program. Ta-da! Tell us about MiniMed. Well, we know about MiniMed, and those who don't, if you're on an Omni or on another pump, MiniMed makes insulin pumps under Medtronic. So could you tell us about how you got involved, what it is, and how people can take advantage of the fact that you all exist? I think it's wonderful.
Well, I started on an insulin pump. I was one of the first in the country, and that was in the beginning of 1980. And from there, Medtronic, before it became Medtronic, was making insulin pumps. They were one of the first companies to do so. And luckily, I have decided to stay with Medtronic all these years and moved up with all the advanced pumps. But in 2013, they felt that there were just too many questions for diabetics about insulin pumps, and people needed to answer them. Somebody needed to be able to talk one-on-one with another diabetic to explain all the ups and downs of living with a pump and where to put it, what goes on, what kind of tape to use. and what to do if this happens or that happens. It's not that MiniMed isn't there to back up all those. You can always call MiniMed and say, hey, I got a problem with this. I got a problem with my sensor. And they have a lot of competent people to help you at any time of the day or night, and they can talk you through issues. But when it comes to things about answering questions like intimacy and what to do with the pump, where to wear it when you have an evening gown on, some of those questions aren't easily answered over the phone by a Medtronic employee. So they started this program in 2013. And currently, there are over 170 of us across the country.
My goodness.
And what we do is we go out and we give talks, or we talk one-on-one. We are all heavily involved with, like, the American Diabetes Association, the JDRF, and we're there to answer people's questions about, all kinds of things. And the other day, I was very fortunate. I was attending one of the JDRF's diabetic sessions, a support group. And there was a new parent there with their diabetic son. And they had all kinds of questions about the pump and what it was like and all that. And so between the staff and we were able to answer, questions that they needed to know about what it's like being on a pump.
I mean, this is the truest application that I know, but it does take one to know one.
Right.
Nobody. I mean, and I've said to my own endo, and I know he thinks he's the most brilliant, and arguably he is. I don't know. And I finally said to him just that. I said, you arguably are the most brilliant diabetologist on the planet, but one thing that you're not, and you never will be,
is a
type 1.
Yes.
You can't possibly know what this feels like.
Right. It's impossible.
And when it comes to explanation, somebody who hasn't, you can read about it, and you can have a glimmer, but unless you are one. Also, I think that there is an instant friendship. There's
a bonding. Yes,
there is. I mean, sister of the pump. The way I found out about the Dexcom sensors, I had been on the MiniMed or Medtronic, and I had not been successful with it.
Right.
And I just said, poo-poo, I don't want to be bionic anymore, and I'll just, go ahead and go back to, my regular 4 to 6 tests a day. And I had an opportunity to go see Dancing with the Stars. So here I'm sitting, and there's a young lady sitting just to my right, and very attractive, probably in her early 20s, and her mom is sitting next to her. And in the middle of everything, I see her pull out, the receiver. Oh, first I saw her pump, and I looked at her, and I smiled, and I said, sister of the pump.
Yeah.
Right?
I've had that before. In the very early 80s, I was taking a train to Washington, and I had come into, the station here in LA, and I was in line to buy my transfer ticket to go up north, and I heard the beeping. And I'm thinking, oh, great. So I grab my pump, and I look down, and it's not my pump. And then I keep hearing the beeping, and I look up, and the woman in front of me, 2 people in front of me, pulls out her pump. And it was like, oh my gosh. And at that time, there were maybe 1,000 people in the country on pumps. So that was a rare opportunity. That was a shocker, really.
It is, but there is such a familiarity. I mean, we don't have to explain. It's like having a best friend who knows all your stuff and isn't going to come down on you, and it just understands it.
Right.
And that's sort of how I perceive the whole ambassador program, because it is staffed by type 1s.
Exactly.
You got to know,
Exactly.
that's who answers the question and can explain what to anticipate. Well, these are some lucky people you've been dealing with. I mean, as I read you on Facebook, and one of the reasons I reached out to you, I am amazed at the vast amount of knowledge that you possess. I was delighted by reading the way that you then interpret and give it out to the other diabetics who are reading you. If I could send a vote in to the ambassadors on your behalf, and I may do that, know that I would. So I'd like you to tell our audience how they can enjoy and learn and follow you too.
Well, currently, most of us ambassadors are on Facebook. There are also some of us on Twitter. And we can be reached at Medtronic, medtronicdiabetes.com. And at the bottom of the page, you'll find a link. And that link will list ambassadors. And from there, you can find an ambassador in your area. You can find a male, a female, a parent of a type 1 on a pump, a type 1 on a pump, a type 2 on a pump. It's endless what you can search for on their website to find someone who can relate to you. And all that information is right there. All you have to do is fill it out. A list of names will come up, and you contact them, you message them, and we'll usually get back to you within 24 hours.
Is
and
this
explain
usually
things
done
and-
in a group, or do you do a one-on-one? I mean, do you need to have a group?
No,
a group
we
of
don't.
people?
We don't have it. And when we go through the internet and Medtronic's website, we don't have a group of people. It's always one-on-one.
Excellent.
So they don't have to be afraid to ask the questions.
That's a very important part too. Also, they know that there's somebody honing in directly on their case.
Right.
I think that's wonderful. And I think you're wonderful. And
Well, thank you.
Thank you so very much for being with me here today and for being an ambassador. So bravo to Medtronic and to MiniMed to know how important this feature is and this function, and this wonderful woman who has taken her time to come here and talk to us today on the Bonnie Sher Show. So Jill, thank you.
Thank you very
You
much,
be
Bonnie.
well. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thanks. You know, if any of our fellow Type 1s would also like to be a co-host on my show, it's really very simple. Shout out to me. Send me a note at bonniesher.com. Let me know. I promise you I will make it happen, and it's just that easy. Now, I hate to end this segment, but it is time for my soapbox. First of all, I'd like to give a shout out to the folks here at UBN Radio TV. Tony Sweet runs an operation here, which I am proud to be a part of, and that he gives me the ability to chat with you all once a week. And a very special shout out to my engineer / producer, Jarvis Essex. Yay! Oh, come on. Thank you. This is a very tough room to work. But they are the best. And also on my team, a shout out to Pedro Forgaca, who has been an associate producer and intern with me since day one, and our newest addition, Roy Lott. So to all of you, thank you. Next, my shout down. Oh my goodness, shame on Donald Trump. What is this? In an interview with Jake Tapper on CNN, you may have already heard about this, Donald Trump repeatedly refused to repudiate a political endorsement of Trump's candidacy from KKK leader David Duke, pleading total innocence as to who Duke is and what he represents. Of course, being white supremacy. His quote was, "I don't know anything about David Duke. I don't know what you're even talking about with white supremacy or white supremacist," claimed Trump. Really? And while I'm at it, today's news, when they released his Trump's decision on what should happen with medical care, that he wants to, well, we know he wants to repeal Obamacare, but he wants to put us back to a time where if you have a previous illness condition that you will not be able to get insurance. What the hell does he think we're going to do now? If you have an opinion, please visit my blog at bonniesher.com /blog and sound off. I just can't. Anyway, that's our show for today. I hope you'll return next week for another 50 minutes of the land of Bonnie, the land of boomers, and the type 1 diabetes community. Until then, please visit bonniesher.com, follow the number 1, Bonnie Sher, on Twitter, and like the Bonnie Sings Lena fan page on Facebook. I again want to thank today's guests and you for sharing your time and sharing the ride. And lastly, a note of thanks once again to Corey Bone, who today has outfitted me with this beautiful long hand-strung, we have a picture of this, I believe, necklace that he has made of smoky topaz beads with 14 karat, 18 karat, and 22 karat gold balls. Also, I think they're called beads, not balls. Oh, well, in exchange for this promotional consideration, you can visit Corey by going to bonniesher.com, drop down to the bottom of the page, and you'll see a link to Corey Bone and Crown and Anchor. For my friends, old and new, you are most probably aware of the fact that Sammy Davis Jr. had an enormous amount to do with giving me a career, teaching me what a career was, and just being my friend. So if there are speakers in heaven, Sammy, this one's for you.
Whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong, whether I find a place in this world or never belong, I gotta be me. I gotta be me. What else can I be but what I am? I want to live, not merely survive. And I won't give up this dream of life that keeps me alive. I gotta be me. I gotta be me. The dream that I see makes me what I am. That faraway prize, a world of success, is waiting for me if I heed the call. I won't settle down, won't settle for less, as long as there's a chance that I can have it all. I'll go it alone, that's how it must be. I can't be right for somebody else if I'm not right for me. I gotta be free. I've gotta be free. Daring to try to do it or die. I've gotta be me. I'll go it alone. That's how it must be. I can't be right for somebody else if I'm not right for me.